Think of House of Cards. That moment when Frank Underwood leans into the camera, delivering a conspiratorial smile before he manipulates everyone in sight. Have you ever paused to wonder, what if real-life power isn't about winning popularity contests or being likable, but about stalking opportunities like a predator hunts prey? Niccolò Machiavelli, writing almost 5 centuries ago, argued exactly that. To seize and hold power, you must think, not like a shepherd herding sheep, but like a wolf circling its quarry. Today, as boardrooms resemble jungle arenas and political battles look more like survival games, Machiavelli's predator mentality feels shockingly relevant and deeply unsettling. But is this ruthless approach truly necessary, or is it simply a cynical excuse for cruelty? The mystery lies in how far we're willing to go and whether we realize we're already playing by his rules. Niccolò Machiavelli, 1469 to 1527, lived in Renaissance Florence, a period of dizzying artistic triumph and brutal political scheming. His hometown Florence sat at the crossroads of Europe's richest trading routes. It was a center for humanist thought, fierce merchant families, and cutthroat politics. By age 29, Machiavelli had risen to a key diplomatic post under the Republic, traveling to negotiate treaties with the Papal States, France, and Venice. But in 1512, when the Medici family reclaimed power, he was abruptly dismissed, tortured on suspicion of conspiracy, and exiled into the Tuscan countryside. He spent years away from politics, reflecting on the chaos he'd witnessed, until 1513 when he penned a short but seismic text, Il Principe, the Prince. Published posthumously in 1532, The Prince shocked Europe. It offered blunt advice: break promises when it suits you, use fear to control subjects, and be willing to commit cruelty if it secures your rule. No moralizing, just cold-eyed pragmatism. At the time, this approach was controversial because most political treatises either cloaked power in religious or ethical justification. Machiavelli stripped away all that, presenting power as a game of predators and prey. Despite being written in a specific Italian context, city-states jockeying for position under looming empires, his words quickly spread beyond Florence. Rulers, generals, and philosophers debated whether he was a teacher of tyranny or a realist exposing uncomfortable truths. Yet even today, Machiavelli remains misunderstood. Many hear Machiavellian and think evil mastermind, forgetting that his aim was not simply to glorify cruelty, but to teach readers how to navigate a world where not everyone plays by the rules. The core tension endures. Do we accept his predator rules as necessary truths of human nature, or do we reject them as cynical distortions? On one hand, popular culture and history often paint Machiavelli as the indispensable patron saint of ruthless power. We hear his most notorious line, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Chi non può essere amato, è meglio che sia temuto che amato." That aphorism, cited in countless speeches, memes, and business seminars, suggests that leaders should prioritize instilling fear to keep people in line. In this standard interpretation, Machiavelli is the go-to source for anyone who needs a justification for lying, betraying allies, or using violence, so long as it secures their position. Look at Cesare Borgia, the merciless cardinal's son whom Machiavelli praised as a living example. Borgia exploited his papal connections to seize cities, poisoned opponents, and used treachery like a scalpel, swift, precise, and nearly surgical. For Machiavelli, Borgia's brute efficiency demonstrated how a prince could solidify his rule in a fractured Italy. This image of the predator prince, ruthless, unprincipled, utterly focused on results, became central to the Machiavellian stereotype. Fast forward to modern times. Executives run companies with hostile takeovers, acquiring competitors in backroom deals. Politicians craft talking points designed to push opponents into a corner, then pounce on their mistakes using media spin to bury inconvenient truths. In pop culture, shows like Succession and Billions depict tycoons leveraging insider information, cutting friends loose when they no longer serve a purpose, and smiling sweetly while plotting boardroom coups. This is the conventional wisdom. Power is zero-sum, and only those who act decisively, like predators, prevail. But on the other hand, A more nuanced view of Machiavelli emerges when we dig deeper into his text and the world he inhabited. Machiavelli recognized that predators also face traps. He wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." In other words, you need both cunning and strength. The fox's subtle wit to spot hidden snares, and the lion's force to deter bigger threats. Take another historical highlight, Francesco Sforza, a condottiero, mercenary captain, who eventually became Duke of Milan. Unlike a bloodthirsty tyrant, Sforza combined boldness with prudence. He offered generous terms to cities that surrendered, sparing civilian populations, which earned him loyalty. Yet when those cities faced bandit uprisings, he crushed the brigands mercilessly. Sforza's reign lasted decades, far longer than Borgia's, because he knew that indiscriminate cruelty breeds rebellion, whereas calculated compassion can stabilize a realm. Machiavelli lauded Sforza's ability to modulate between predator and protector, understanding that raw brutality alone is a short-lived strategy. Consider another case study, Elizabeth I of England. Though not a Catholic prince of Italy, her rule offers a Machiavellian twist. She cultivated a virgin queen persona, modest, pious, almost saintly, while privately manipulating Parliament, balancing Protestant and Catholic factions, and backing pirates to raid Spanish treasure ships. Her public image drew adoration. Behind closed doors, she was calculating, and when necessary, ruthless. She signed the death warrant for Mary, Queen of Scots. Here we see the predator's mask, appearing benevolent, yet letting no one stand in her way. Thus, on one hand, Machiavelli's reputation as a butcher, preaching fear and cold cruelty, prevailed. But on the other, reading The Prince in full reveals his insistence that a wise ruler must also inspire loyalty, promote virtue, a combination of courage, wisdom, and decisiveness, and maintain a reputation for justice, even if that justice sometimes comes with a predatory bite. Here's the twist. Machiavelli's ultimate aim wasn't to glorify violence for its own sake, but to teach readers how to survive and thrive in a world where wolves roam. You can read his advice in two ways. One reading says, "Predators exist. You must become one to avoid being slaughtered." The other says, "Predator tactics come at a cost. If you rely solely on fear, you erode trust and sow seeds of rebellion." This duality reframes our understanding. Machiavelli's rules are not a license to pillage, but a map for navigating moral ambiguity. A revealing personal anecdote comes from a tech startup founder I interviewed. He described his boardroom as a jungle, junior partners lurking like gazelles, executive investors circling like hyenas, each waiting for a sign of weakness. Early in the company's life, he tried being transparent, laying out long-term plans, openly discussing financial struggles, trusting employees to stay loyal. But when a key investor leveraged a minor performance dip to demand a board seat, the founder felt betrayed. He then embraced Machiavelli's predator mindset, studying investors' motivations, creating factions within the team, and orchestrating a private fundraising round to dilute hostile shares. Critics called him cutthroat, but he insisted it was necessary survival. Machiavelli also warns against overusing predator tactics. He praises the Roman Emperor Augustus for his combination of generosity and severity. Augustus forgave many senators who opposed him, winning genuine goodwill, yet also executed those whose threats were too serious to ignore. This balance, Machiavelli argued, ensured stability. From this twist, we learn that predator rules must be used sparingly and strategically. Strike hard when needed, but don't forget that compassion and generosity forge loyalty. A ruler who constantly prowls like a predator will find no allies left, only terrified subjects. Another compelling piece of evidence comes from modern neuroscience. Studies show that leaders who rely only on fear, micromanaging, punishing mistakes without praise, create a stressed, high-turnover workforce. In contrast, those who balance accountability with genuine recognition build more resilient, creative teams. In essence, Machiavelli's blend of lion and fox remains relevant. Extreme ferocity leads to collapse. Measured strength and occasional kindness build lasting power. Zooming out, Machiavelli's predator mentality ripples through history and into our own lives, from the Medici dukes who financed artists to win hearts while secretly plotting rivals' downfall, to 20th century diplomats who mastered back-channel negotiations, to today's CEOs who buy out competitors one week and donate millions to charity the next for tax breaks and goodwill. Machiavelli didn't invent treachery, he simply held up a mirror to human nature, showing how predators operate beneath the veneer of civility. His lessons echo loudly in modern politics. Consider how some populist leaders charm voters with uplifting speeches, then use secret surveillance to undermine opponents. Or think about corporate boardrooms, where CEOs tout benevolent missions while cutting jobs to boost stock prices. These real-world predatory tactics validate Machiavelli's premise. If you don't think like a predator, you might become prey. But Machiavelli does not leave us without hope. He believed that a prince or any leader should aim to be both feared and loved if possible. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, he wrote, for everyone can see and few can feel. In other words, appearances matter. If a leader can cultivate the image of benevolence while quietly safeguarding their position, they achieve stable authority without descending into terror. In Machiavelli's own words, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." Niccolo Machiavelli, The Prince, Chapter 17. Next time you're vying for a promotion, negotiating a partnership, or even navigating a social circle, ask yourself, am I acting like a naive sheep, trusting everyone at face value? Or am I thinking like a predator, observing, planning, knowing when to strike and when to show mercy? Remember, power isn't a friendly handshake. It's the roar of a lion and the sly maneuvering of a fox combined. A mindful predator doesn't terrorize the entire herd. He leads it. And true leadership comes not from unbridled cruelty, but from mastering the balance between decisive strength and strategic compassion. Seek wisdom.